Jack Nichols. Go home and put your affairs in order. Go home and put your affairs in order. Jack Nichols.
February 3, 2011. I was at a doctor's appointment. This was a simple appointment. It was after a minor surgery. I was going in there just to get my post-operative inspection and approval. But this was a little different. The doctor wasn't on time like normal. He was running around there making lots of phone calls, and he seemed to be excited about something. I couldn't figure out what was going on because this wasn't like him. I probably was right before lunch, and he just was keep coming. Finally, he walked in, and this man looked like he had the weight of 1,000 pounds on his shoulder. He looked me in the face, and he said, "Jack," he says, "you have melanoma metastasized into your lymph nodes. You're at level 4, and if it has gone into other parts of your body, I suggest you go home and put your affairs in order." Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I stood there, sat there, stood there. He scheduled me for a CT scan that day, a dermatologist the next day, and an oncologist the next day. And I was in a PT after that, and a PT scan, and I was just doing whatever he told me, but I still had to go home and tell my wife. I don't know how I got home that day. It was about 40 miles to my house, but I got there, sat in the driveway for about 30 minutes, just didn't know what to say. Finally walked in the house. She came over to me as normal. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, I don't know. I said, "I've just been told I have level 4 cancer, melanoma." And I said, "He told me to go and put my affairs in order." I just didn't know what else. I didn't know how to say it any nicer. She looked at me and immediately went to the telephone and called our children, told them what I just told her. I was sad. I was scared. But mostly I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to talk to her. I didn't know how to talk to my friends, my co-workers, what would speakers do without Speakers Bureau do without me? I mean, think about it. And yet, I was just absolutely stunned. What would you do if somebody was to say, "You're going to die soon. Go home and put your affairs in order"? If you've never heard those words, you don't really know how that would affect you. And I'm a big guy and strong and all this stuff, but it didn't matter. It was like somebody hit me with a sledgehammer. I was hurting. Over the next 2 weeks, we went to doctors and tests and doctors and tests and doctors and tests, more than I could even think of. And so many times I would hear, "It's okay, you're healthy, you can fight this." Never once did anybody else say, "Go home and put their affairs in order." It just didn't happen again, just that one doctor. But that was the most impact I had. Because then from that point on, I questioned every other doctor. Was the first doctor honest and everybody else just trying to sell me an idea of their program? Or was the first doctor just mean and everybody else was being really nice? I wasn't sure. When you are faced with a situation like this, you have to look at every part of it and what you've done to get yourself to that point, and how can you do something? What can you do? And one of the people told me about a clinical trial up in Santa Monica. And I went up and I talked to the doctors up there, and I went to UCLA and USC and all these places. And I ended up at this clinical trial in Santa Monica. And they're so different. They're so positive. They're so involved with life and saving people that they really didn't dwell on the negative. They dealt only with the positives. What an important part of my life changed at that time. Suddenly I realized, wow, there's people out there that are really working every day to save my life and yours. I started realizing something else. I was the guy who took fish oil 40 years ago. I was the guy that took protein supplements. I took vitamins, I took minerals, I walked, I rode bikes, I did everything I possibly could to keep myself healthy. I was the person who was going to use sunscreen because I was out building houses. I didn't want skin cancer. Wasn't enough. But then I started realizing that because I was so healthy, my GP didn't take care of me like she would if I was unhealthy. She didn't look into the things in my life and check every little thing like she would have if you'd have come in there with high blood pressure or some problem. The insurance company is not out there to save people that are healthy. They're out there to help people that are sick. So if you're not sick, you're not getting help. This speech is not really about me. I hope you understand that. This speech is about drug companies and how I used to think that they were all just greedy people. But they're not. Yes, there are greedy people everywhere. But they spend billions of dollars putting together people to work and to research and to solve problems that one day you'll all have. Some of you may already have now. Trouble is, do you know it or not? My cancer was growing in me for at least 3 years before I was able to identify it. And I kept asking about it. But that's because I was on top of my medical. I want you to be on top of yours. I want you to leave here today and go home and put your affairs in order before some doctor tells you that. Figure out what the medical situation is. Find out how those numbers on the blood test mean and how you can make them better. Get your blood pressure. If you smoke, stop. If you drink, slow down. If you're a couch potato or you're connected to the computer too many hours out of the day, get up, get ready, and get going. Do something. Exercise. Make yourself healthier. The reason I'm alive and in much better shape today than I would have been is because I went into this thing healthy. Poor people who aren't healthy, the ones that are too far gone, they don't make it very long. How many celebrities you know that have jillions of dollars and they still die from colon cancer and so on? They just don't take the time to get tested. Don't be a statistic. You have the opportunity, and there are millions of people in this world that are standing in line to help you, but you have to help them. You have to be willing to take the test and get the results then. Please, go home and put your affairs in order.